In this video, you will learn how to create an account on the OpenAI platform, set up billing, understand pricing, tokens, prompt engineering, structured output, and reusable prompts. Let us start. To create an account, visit the link in the description, which will take you to this page, which is auth.openai.com/create account. And then you can enter your email address and click continue, or use continue with Google, continue with Microsoft, or continue with Apple. In my case, I have an account, so I'll go to login and I'll say continue with Google and be patient. Of course, if you have a number of Google accounts, you'll be asked to choose one. But in my case, I have one and I've already logged in. So here I am on the overview page. So make sure you do the same. And let's go to the next thing. To use OpenAI's API, you need to pay. To do so, go to settings and then go to billing. And you like see, I have used some amount of money. The minimum you'll be required as of now is $5. And trust me, you can make use of it profitably, like I'll show you soon. To be able to add your credit balance, click Payment Methods, then click Add Payment Method, enter the name of your card, enter your billing address, the address lines, the city, postal code, and then your state, county, province, or region. When this is okay, including of course the card number and the expiry date and the CVC on your card, click on add payment method. So like you see over here, I have added a card and so far I've been billed some cents. So let's go on to the next section. A token is simply a chunk of text, or a token is a piece of text. OpenAI's large language models process text using tokens, which are common sequences of characters found in a set of text. Within here is a platform which you can access using the link in the description, which will take you to platform.openai.com/tokenizer. And this platform will help us understand how a piece of text might be tokenized by a large language model. So if I come here and I type a word, for example, I say tokenizer and scroll to the bottom, you see that this word has two tokens. The first one in purple is called token. Let me expand this so that you can see it better. We have token and then ISA, from the I to the R. 9 characters, 2 tokens. The rule of thumb is that one token is generally corresponding to approximately 4 characters for text in English. And that translates to roughly 3/4 of a word. So 100 tokens is approximately equals to 75 words. Let me try to type something else. I can say, where is this text box? Okay, remove this. I have to reset. So I'll go up, say clear, come back here and say, learning text generation. If I scroll to the bottom, you see we have 4 tokens. The space up to learning, the space up to text, and then the space up to generation. 4 tokens. So you can come to this platform and try out and understand how tokenization works. Let's go to the next section. To understand pricing, click Docs, go to Pricing, and here we have prices per 1 million tokens. We see that for a model called GPT-5, we shall be charged $1.25 if our input reaches 1 million tokens. For the cached input, we have $0.125, and then for the output at 1 million tokens in the output, we have $10. And something similar for GPT-5 mini, we have $0.25 per 1 million tokens, $0.025 per 1 million tokens in the cached input, and $2 per 1 million tokens in the output. And the same is the same for GPT-5 Nano and so on and so forth. If you scroll, you'll see that we have something similar for image tokens, okay? With an image model called GPT Image 1, the price per 1 million tokens for the input is $10. For the cached input is $2.5, and for the output is $40. The same is for the audio tokens. So we can't go through all the rows. You can read about this, but the concept is very much the same. To be able to do anything, we need an API key. To create an API key, go to Settings, and then go to API keys, and then click on Create New Secret Key. So you can give it a name, okay? Give it a name and select a project, okay? For example, I'll simply say default. In any case, you can be asked to create a project if you do not have. And then for permissions, you can restrict, okay? For example, is it a write only, okay? For the audio, chat completions, bendings, images, moderations, or none? Or do you want read permissions for the V1 models, okay? But for now, we shall keep it simple and say all, and say create secret key. So make sure you copy it and save it safely somewhere. Make sure you do not share your API key with anyone. It is a secret. Let us set up our development environment. To do that, open your favorite text editor or IDE. In my case, I have VS Code open, and I'll go to the menu, click Terminal, click New Terminal, and then after that, we are going to set up a key. To do that, on macOS or Linux, type export space, and for those on Windows, I'll show you in a minute. After that, type open AI underscore API underscore key equal sign quote, paste your key, close quote. I want to emphasize that this is a secret and do not share it. This one I'm using right now is fake, and the one you saw me creating in the previous section is going to be deleted. It's a secret, don't share it. After that, hit enter. In my case, I won't because I've already created it. For those on Windows, type set x space open AI underscore API underscore key space quote, paste your key, close quote. So if you didn't copy your key in the previous section, go back to the platform like I showed you, create it and copy it, but it's a secret. Then after that, we need to install the official Python SDK. To do that, I'll use a package called UV. Go to their official GitHub page in case you don't know what UV is. It is an extremely fast Python package and project manager written in Rust. To install UV, simply use this command in your terminal if you're on macOS and Linux. For those on Windows, type this command or paste this command on your PowerShell. And of course, you can use pip install UV or pipx install UV in case you have pipx or pip. Let's go back to my editor and in the terminal. I already have UV installed, so I'll say UV init. UV init helps us to create and initialize a project. I'll say UV init AI underscore tutorial and hit enter. So you see initialize project at AI tutorial at this location. So I'll cd into AI tutorial and open VS Code in this directory. So open this directory using your favorite text editor if it's not VS Code. If it is VS Code, simply say code period, hit enter, and give it a moment. You'll see a new window. So I'll expand this to make it bigger, close this welcome screen. So you see that we have a git ignore. I can close this chat window. We have a Python version file, main.py, where we shall write our code, pyproject for .taml, where we shall be having our dependencies, or rather UV will add our dependencies for us here, and then a readme.md. Now, going forward, I'll open the terminal once again. And what I need to do is to deactivate a environment called base using a tool called Conda. So I'll say Conda deactivate. Of course, in your case, you will not have Conda, so do not worry about it. Okay. What I want is simply to activate our virtual environment, okay, which has been created by UV. Actually, it hasn't been created yet, and it will be created in a moment. So let us say UV add open AI and hit enter. So saying UV add is similar to saying pip install open AI. They do the same thing, but this time we are doing it using UV. Of course, if you have pip, you can say pip install open AI in your virtual environment. So after that, I'll clear the screen and activate the virtual environment. So you see we have a directory called .venv which has been created. So I'll say source.venv/bin/activate, hit enter, and it has been activated. This is how we simply set up our development environment. In the next section, we shall now create some text. With the OpenAI API, you can use a large language model to generate text from a prompt, as you might using ChatGPT. Models can generate almost any kind of text response, like code, mathematical equations, structured JSON data, or human-like prose. Let us start by generating basic text from a simple prompt. To do that, I'll open main.py, and at the top, I'll import OpenAI by saying from OpenAI import OpenAI. So you see there's a difference. This one has all lowercase. This one, the O and the A and I are uppercase. After that, I'll create an instance of OpenAI by saying client is equals to OpenAI. So this variable client stores an instance of OpenAI. After that, I'll delete this print statement and simply start by creating some code. Okay, so I'll say client, okay, dot response. Okay, it's going to be client dot responses. So the client, this instance, okay, client has an attribute called responses, and responses has a method called create. Okay, when create works successfully, it returns to us a response object, which will have the text that we want. So I'll say response equals to that. And inside this method here, this method takes in some arguments. Like you see the autocomplete suggesting, one of the arguments is called the model. We can specify, for example, a model called GPT-5. GPT-5 is a model which is known for coding and agentic tasks. So it is the best model for coding and agentic tasks across domains. In addition to that, there's another one called GPT-5 Mini. Okay, so GPT-5 Mini is a faster, cost-efficient version of GPT-5 for well-defined tasks. There's another one called GPT-5 Nano. It is the fastest and most cost-efficient version of GPT-5. So I'll start with Nano. So it's Nano, not Nani. Okay. Create method also takes another argument called input. So I'll say input equals to. So this is where now you specify the user input, what you want the model to do for you. And so we're seeing a red squiggly line here because I'm missing a comma right there. After that, I can now enter a simple prompt that I want the LM to do for me. I'll say, write a joke about Python code. And then we can now save, okay, and go to the next line and print the response, okay? So the response object has a property, okay? The property is called, let's say, response dot output text, okay? So it has an output text property which gives us the text that the AI has generated from this. So let us run that. I'll say UV run python main.py, hit enter, and let's wait for the result. So if I scroll this, okay, you will see we're getting an error saying error. The requested model GPT-5 Nano does not exist. Type invalid request error. So we're using this model here does not exist, okay, which means I need to fix it, okay. And if you look at my code carefully, instead of typing GPT, I typed GTP. So the P is supposed to come first, then the T. So I'll save that and then clear my screen and then run it one more time. Here we are with some result, okay? Says here are a few Python jokes to pick from. If I expand this and reduce this, says why did the Python programmer bring a ladder to work? Then they're saying because their code had too many levels of indentation. Wow. They say my Python code isn't failing. It's just raising exceptions for emphasis. Okay, that's not funny. They say, why do Python programmers love lists? Because they are great at something you can really append to a conversation. Wow. So yeah, not so funny, but you get the gist of it. Okay. And we can prompt it better, but you can get the thing and how it works. So next up, we're going to look at structured output in the next section. Structured outputs is a feature that ensures the model will always generate responses that adhere to your supplied JSON schema. So you don't need to worry about the model omitting a required key or hallucinating an invalid enum value. The first benefit is that we get reliable type safety, which means there's no need for us to validate or retry incorrectly formatted responses. We also have simpler prompting with structured outputs, which means there's no need for us to have strongly worded prompts to achieve consistent formatting. The OpenAI SDK for Python gives us an easy way to define object schemas using Pydantic. And so let us start by installing Pydantic. So I'll say uv add Pydantic. So Pydantic is going to help us to extract information, okay? When you combine the model together with Pydantic, we shall be able to extract information from data which is unstructured, okay? Unstructured text, and be able to make it conform to the schema defined in our Pydantic model. So if you don't know what Pydantic is simply the most popular Python library used for serialization, deserialization, data validation, and parsing. Okay. And today we're going to look at how it is going to help us with extracting data and parsing. If you're new to Pydantic, you can read about it on their official documentation, or if you need, I can create a video about it. So let's import Pydantic. So I'll say from Pydantic, import base model. So base model is the base class, okay, which gives you the ability to do things like serialization, deserialization, parsing, data extraction, and so on. And then below here, I'll create a class which will define the output, okay, of our model. So we shall say the output, shall say class output, okay, like this, full colon. Then I can make it empty for now, like that. And then below here, we need to do some changes, okay? For example, now instead of saying client.responses.create, we need to say client.responses.parse instead, okay? We have parse, okay? And then after that, right here after input, I can now add something else, okay? And say the text format that we want, okay? The text format should be equals to our output class, as simple as that. And then right here, when we are printing, we shall say response.output parsed, not output text. Okay, output parsed like that. So let's go up and complete our class. To make it a valid class which can help us with extraction and parsing, we need to inherit from base model. So output is now a Pydantic base model. So using this pedantic-based model, we're going to define a schema which our model will use to extract information from this text which was unstructured and make it conform to this class. I mean conform, not conform, but conform to this class. So I'll come and say our joke is now a string. This is a public class attribute. And now let's try to run this. So I'll clear, expand this, and say uv run main.py. Okay. Okay, that failed. Okay. It means something is missing. Okay. Looks like the API key has been reset out of my terminal because I restarted it. So I need to set it again. So let me set it in a minute and I'll be back. So I've set the key. If you don't know how to set the key, please watch the previous chapter or the first chapters. Look into the chapters and go to this chapter that or section where I do that. So now I can say uv run python main.py. Okay, so you see we get joke. Okay, so joke equals to why do Python programmers celebrate Halloween? Okay, and we can even do something better. Okay, how do I do this? I can come here and say probably we're going to expect a language. You can say give us the language, which would be a string. Okay, and then we can say yeah, let's maybe add one more. I can say maybe invent a holiday. Okay, let me say holiday. Okay, let's leave it at that. Okay, joke and language for now. So you see, we get the joke, and then we have the language being goes to English. Okay, so this is how you can work with models, and it's just a very basic way of working with structured output. If you want an in-depth tutorial on this or crash course, please let me know. I can create a video to go deeper into structured output. Let's move on to study something about prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is the art and science of writing effective instructions for a model such that it efficiently generates content which meets your requirements. We are going to look at techniques to make sure we have good prompt engineering. The first one is by using a parameter called instructions and another one using a parameter called reasoning. Right here, I can go to the next line, okay, and specify a parameter called instructions, okay. I say instructions equals to, and this would be a string. So with instructions, I can pass here a string which will provide the model with high-level instructions on how it should behave while generating a response. And this could include things like the tone, okay? So use this when you want to control things like the tone. I think I should put a comment right above it. So instructions parameter is used uh, to control behavior concerning things like the tone you want, the goals you want. If you want to control maybe like how it should provide something in a particular way, then you create an example. This is where you put examples, okay, of responses, the goals, and the tone. So for example, right here, I can say probably talk like a lawyer, okay, or talk like a musician. Let me use music like a musician, and then I will leave this here. So ideally, this input must adhere to the instructions. Okay, so everything you have in instructions has higher power or higher level or control or overrides anything in the input. So take note of that. The instructions takes priority over a prompt in the input parameter. So this is one of the ways you can have effective prompting. Let us check it out by executing this. So I'll clear my screen. Let's run and see what it says. And there we are. Look at it. It says, why did a Python programmer bring a metronome to the coding session? Of course, if you're not a musician, you may not know what a metronome is, but it's a tool that helps you to keep the beat. Then it says to keep indentation in a tempo one of the beat, and you get an indentation error in the middle of the solo. If a bug sneaks, all right, you get the gist of it. Okay, and of course we have our joke and the language being specified. So another parameter that you can use is called the reasoning parameter. Okay, so reasoning is a parameter that also takes a value. Okay, and this value simply guides the model on how many reasoning tokens it needs to generate before creating a response to the prompt. So this will be a dictionary, and no dictionaries take key value pairs, and the key will be effort, okay? And the value can be either low or high or medium. Okay, so medium is the default value. When you say the reasoning.effort is low, it simply means that you want to favor speed and economical token usage. If you change this to high, it simply means you want to favor more complete reasoning. If you change this value to medium, it simply means you want a balance between speed and reasoning accuracy. So right now I'll choose low because I want to favor speed and economical token usage. If you want something better, please change as required. So if I run this again, of course, we shall get something pretty similar. I can clear my screen again and run. And there you are. You can see even the output text joke is actually a little bit shorter. Let's go on and rewrite this in another way because there's something else I need you to understand. You can actually rewrite this in a very similar way. And I'm doing this to introduce you to something called roles. To make you understand what roles are all about, I am going to comment out this whole section. And again, I am going to share this code in my GitHub repository so that at the end you can have everything. And probably I'll go to the top, okay, and create another response, okay. So response will be equals to client dot responses dot create, okay. I'll simply use create, and then probably I need to close this, okay. And what I can do, actually the best thing to do is to put it just below here. Of course, it may not be the best, but I just prefer to have it at the bottom. And then we can say the model we want to use, okay. I'll simply use GPT, okay. I don't want to make the same mistake. Actually, I can just copy this, GPT-5 Nano. And you remember why I want to use it. Because it's going to ban the least tokens, okay? And it will achieve the general purpose of generating text. And then the reasoning will be, the reasoning effort will simply be low. And this has to be a string. And then after that, I can have input again. So I'm going to rewrite all this, the instructions and the input in a different way. Okay. So input can not only take a string, but can also take a list. So a list of what they call message roles, or a list of messages rather, not message roles, but a list of messages. These messages are simply dictionaries, okay? So this would be my first message, and then I would have another dictionary defining another message. Every message or every dictionary is made up of keys and values, like we know. One key is called a role, okay, with its value, which is a string, and then another key has a value called the content and its value, okay? Same thing for the next message, okay? Has a role and its value, and also has content, if you can spell content right, content and its value. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see everything, okay? And then I'll zoom in again so you can see the whole gist of the matter. And maybe for now, I can close the terminal. So now a role needs to be given and content needs to be given. The OpenAI model spec describes how models give different levels of priority to messages with different roles. There are a number of roles. And so far, I'm going to talk about 3 of them. The first role, so I'll create a doc string here, and I'll say roles. The first role is called developer. Okay, so I can come here and say role developer, like that. So what does developer mean? Developer simply specifies a message, so the content value will have a message. And so the LLM, when LLM looks at the role developer, it means that the message here or the content is an instruction or instructions provided by the application developer and is prioritized ahead of user messages. That means we have another role called user, and we have another role called assistant, if I can spell assistant correctly. So even here we can change this to user. So user is the content you give as though you were using ChatGPT. Okay, developer are instructions given by the application developer, and developer messages have priority ahead of user messages. Okay, what are user messages? User messages are instructions provided by the end user, and they are prioritized behind developer messages, meaning developer messages take priority over user messages. Developer messages are instructions provided by the application developer, and user messages are instructions provided by an end user. And then assistant messages are messages generated by the model. So on a message which will be generated, like what we get in our response, we'll have the assistant role. So here I can simply copy what we have up here. Okay. I say talk like a musician. This is the developer message. And then the user message will be this. Write a joke about Python. And then just down here, I can say print response dot output text. Save. And let's have our terminal open again. I'll expand this a little bit. Clear the screen. Run the previous command. And there we are. Okay. Why did the Python programmer bring a guitar to the code review? Because whenever a bug showed up, they'd try a code, accept a note, and keep the riff going. No drama, just clean, well-formed exceptions on stage. I like the last part. Okay, so we can also, of course, adjust this to use the output. Okay, I can come here and say, comma, text format. All right, let me not do this. Okay, let me leave this as an assignment for you. Please adjust this to use our output model so that we have a joke in language in the output, and you can also modify it to have anything, okay, else. And please comment, put it in the comments so that I see how you fare. And by doing this is how you learn. Let's move on to the next topic, which is reusable prompts. In the OpenAI dashboard, you can develop reusable prompts that you can use in API requests rather than specifying the content of the prompts in code. To do this, go to this address, platform.openapi.com/chat/edit. And I am going to give you this link in the description. Please check the description for this link. And of course, it will only work if you've signed in into your OpenAI account. So here you can see we have a number of things that we can change, okay? Like the model, okay? We can add a number of variables. So let's do this, okay? I'll change my model to GPT-5 Nano because like you know, I'm broke and I want to save some money. And I'm going to change or create some variables, okay? I'm going to create one variable called language, okay? I'll call it maybe programming language. Say programming underscore language, like that. Is this the correct spelling? I hope so. Then hit add. Then I will add another one called profession. And this will make sense in a moment. Profession. So I hope this is the correct spelling. Does it have double S or double F? Looks like that's correct. And now I can have the developer message here. This can actually be copied from our code. So go to the code and copy here the message. Okay. And copy it here. And also copy the user message and go back and paste it here. And like see in prompt messages, we can either change to assistant or user. So I have the joke about Python here. And so what I want to do is to now have the variables, okay, be replacing them, okay. So now instead of saying write a joke about Python code, okay, I'll say write a joke about, okay. Then here we shall have, I want to edit and I'll say put those, what they call them, curly brackets, and say we want the programming language instead to be displayed here. Programming underscore language. Simple as that. Okay. So write a joke about programming language code. And then here we shall say talk like a, curly brackets like that. And then in between here we can say profession. So this value here, which will come from the variable profession, will be replaced right here. So you can say talk like a musician, talk like a lawyer, talk like an artist. And we can say write a joke about JavaScript code. That is if the programming language is JavaScript. Okay. And now I can save. I can call it, let me call it uh, language underscore profession prompt. Okay. And so it's being published. So it says it has been published. And you see, we are given an example of how to use it. Okay. So we can actually copy this. Okay. So you see that, but maybe not to explain it, let me not copy. So you see that we have an ID. Okay. So I can copy this ID and go back to our code. And instead of having this, I'll remove all this. Okay. Because actually, if you go back to our dashboard, you'll see that I'll show the reasoning effort. I'll remove all this. Okay. Remove all this and simply use a parameter called prompt. So I'll say prompt is equals to a dictionary, and then we need to specify the ID of our reusable prompt. Okay. And it's the ID we just got from OpenAI dashboard. And then on the next line, we need to specify the version. okay, of this prompt. Very important that you know the version. And like we see here, this is version 1 of our prompt. So I'll simply come here and say, this is version 1, and then go to the next line and now specify the variables, which will be another dictionary, okay? And the keys have to be exactly the names that we have here, okay? For example, like profession, like they've given us, and the programming language. So I'll start with profession, okay? We have profession. I thought I'd copied that correctly. So I'll copy and paste here, profession. And here I'll say maybe lawyer, okay? And then we can change also this other one. Say variable is programming language, and then the value can be Python, okay? Simple as that. So I've missed a comma somewhere, okay? So now this looks good. Now I can save this and let us execute this, okay? So we need to UV run Python main on py. So you see we have a name error, says res is not defined, okay? And it's our line 41. Where is line 41? Oh, this. Wow. But actually it worked. If you look at this, we have a prompt after the profession of a lawyer saying, Your Honor, the case before the court discerns a Python function. It stood up and said, def main. Pretty interesting. Okay. I love this. So we can change it. Okay. Because now our prompt is now reusable. We can come here and say, maybe this time we want you to talk like an artist. Okay. Maybe the language you can quickly change it to, let us say, JavaScript. Save. Clear the screen and run. So ideally what is happening is that all these are simply, this developer message is reusable, and this message here, this user prompt message is also reusable. Okay, so we just refer to it in our code using its ID and the version, and like you've seen, we specify what the variables are in our code using this prompt parameter, which is simply a dictionary. So look at it, it has actually finished saying, why did the JavaScript developer go to art school? And they're saying to learn how to turn promises into paintings, because in JS, every masterpiece waits to resolve until the next tick. Interesting. So yeah, that's how you create a reusable prompt. And I wanted to show you one more thing. You see, we have the reasoning effort. Also here, you can change the reasoning effort. You can change the text format and some other things that we shall look at, like tools. If you want to learn about tools, please let me know. I can create tutorials about, or crash courses about each of these. So yeah, this is your crash course, and I hope you have learned something that you can build on from this. Next up, I'll have a crash course on image generation and then audio generation and so forth and so on. So thank you for watching, and if this has been beneficial to you, please like, share, subscribe, and share this in your network. Thank you.